Cliodhna, thank you for joining me to talk today about the Moneymore Community Centre. I suppose this is one that's close to my heart because I've been involved in the early goings of trying to get it set up. But tell me a little bit about Connect Family Resource Centre and the Moneymore Community Building, what it's for, what's the area like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah, like yourself, I've kind of been involved in this since the beginning. So that was back in 2018. So Connect, I suppose, first and foremost, is a family resource centre. There's 121 in Ireland, and we're the only one in County Loud. So we're based down in Moneymore community, along with several other community organisations. I suppose the main body of our work is early intervention, family support, and community development. So wide range of kind of services and programs we deliver, be it parenting programs, low cost counselling, low cost events, community led projects such as kind of, this year be a remembrance event, outreach. We do food, cloud, rainbows. Keep the list going, but I suppose we meet the community where they're at and try and meet their needs and what they kind of present to us with. So I suppose leading on to the community building, it's something that's been in our strategic plan to get a larger building for a long time. And then within the other community organisations within Moneymore, so that'll be the Cable Guard Diversion Project, and you have the Community House. And then based within the Community House is the After School Club. So, I suppose Moneymore would be, according to different index statistics, we perceived as a community that suffers from disadvantage, vulnerability for different regions. We marginalised, wouldn't have as much access and participation in things which other communities sometimes take for granted. So it's about addressing that, and I suppose because of that, the need for our services have grown like has cable. So it became bigger than us, than Connect, that all the other organisations were expanding, and it's looking to be in a building that meets our needs and most importantly the community needs. So currently we're all based within a tiny community house. So we used to have a computer room that is now our office. We used to have a counselling room, this which I'm sitting in now. We're constantly just trying to manage within the building that we're in, and we simply don't fit. So this will be very much mirrored by, the Garda Diversion Club. So it's about getting a purpose-built building and community centre within the community that's meeting the needs of the community.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things for me is that having worked in that community for so long, is that there is a great community spirit, but the supports put in place have not aligned with that. So while there's community spirit, there's a lot of roadblocks, and I think traditionally Moneymore would be seen as quite a deprived area financially, a high level of unemployment, drug issues. It's had some recent negative headlines due to a drug feud going on in the town, and I think that has kind of spurred things on, and the community centres involved in this community building to try and say, look, we're bursting at the seams here because, like you said, all these agencies are all based in a house. And we also have a housing crisis. So if we can get a purpose-built building, then all they can move in, and then we've got 3 houses for families that desperately need it. But what was the impetus to get this started? Because, like you said, it's in your strategic plan, and I know with cable, the project started to expand, and the after-school club has kind of had challenges in terms of funding and stuff like that as well. So when did it first kick off to go, right, we're going to make this happen?
I suppose you were involved back then as well, 2018, and it was before, I suppose, what I think it's really important to address is, I suppose, it was before that very nationally publicised drug feud within the community. This has existed before that. As you say, oh God, it's such an amazing community to work in. I've been working at Moneymore 7 years. I wouldn't want to work anywhere else. It's lively. It's very active, proactive community. And they are approaching the organisations and saying this is what we want to happen, and it's yeah, we're coming up against barriers all the time because we'd love to do that, but space is a major issue. There's more employees coming on board. Where do we put them? And we don't want that to be a barrier to actually all the work that's happening within the community. As you say, it's kind of harks back to really that access and participation thing. It should be there. The need has been there for so long. So why isn't it happening? Why, in a way, is it being put on the organisations to make it happen? But that's the way a lot of things are. So I think for us, it was just about us as organisations being proactive, moving this forward, highlighting the need. The need's been there for a long time, but really highlighting it and approaching the right people, and bringing it into the media and the wider public.
Yeah, so I suppose it was about trying to get it a more coordinated approach as opposed to each of us individually going, oh, we should do this, we should do that, we should do the other. It was let's bring it all together and go, let's get some momentum going. And I think it was 2017 that Moneymore got nominated for a Pride of Place award. Was it 2017? Was it 2018 maybe? I can't remember.
It was around, I think, 2017, 18, around then. I can't remember the actual date, but yeah.
So the Pride of Place Awards are national awards where areas get nominated for different reasons, and the community spirit within Moneymore was acknowledged by the local council, and the area was put forward. And I think that kind of kickstarted conversations going, okay, let's get this moving, because we were getting a bit of coverage to say, well, let's get this building built. And then we were hit by COVID, and we were hit by the drug feud, which I suppose there'll probably be people watching this who have no idea about it, but it has been really significant and had major impact on most of the community, because whether you're directly involved or whether you're living next door or 3 doors down, there's petrol bombs going on, there is whatever else going on. So that's really impactful on the levels of anxiety and fear within a community. So people were retreating, and what we were trying to do was bring everybody out and go, well, let's get something positive in the area to focus on, because of all the negative attention the area was getting from the national media. Like no responsibility, they were just saying this is happening, this is a disgrace. So the conversations started, and I suppose there's probably been barriers along the way, hasn't there? Like we've had to jump over a number of hurdles, but I think, harking back to that community spirit, also the spirit of those involved in the committee has been immense. Can you tell me a bit about what it's like to work with these people that are involved in the committee, and what it is about them that is so positive? I
suppose, like myself, they probably feel quite connected to community, have worked here, quite a while. We all we would work collaboratively anyway. So it's not like, sitting down, and I suppose we have a good enough relationship to sit down and kind of talk about what needs to be done, who needs to do what, how can we make this happen, and going above and beyond, because I suppose we're all trying to do this alongside our actual jobs, which are really, really busy. But there hasn't been a reluctance to do that, and having the insight of Tina from the community house, and I suppose they would have really, the community house was, I suppose, the first community house in Moneymore, and they would have initiated the application for the resource centre, the garden diversion. So it really is grassroots, when it comes to Moneymore, that it came out of the community more, the Moneymore community seeing the need and progressed that. So there's just been a lot of energy, a lot of input, and I suppose that keeps the consortium going, that it does not particularly, I wouldn't say it's not work heavy, but everyone's willing to do their part, and attend the meetings, do what needs to be done, doing the applications, tender documents, all that. So it's that kind of collaborative approach, and energy. It's definitely, required a lot of energy, and I think we've had that.
Yeah, and I think the reason, I suppose, that I wanted this NFT project to actually contribute real money to it is because there is no money. Like, the committee has been working on this project for 3 years now, and somehow managed to get money together to put together a business plan, a feasibility study. And while the government are starting to make moves towards supporting the building of this building, there's so much little things that need paying for, that not only time-wise do all the agencies have to give up, but financially, like what do you do?
Exactly. We have our consortium account there with a balance of zero, but it's in place. Yeah, do you know, like there's been so many barriers and so many things that come our way, as you say, be it the feud, COVID, all these different things. But in a way, some of it has worked to our, not advantage, but I suppose, this need has been highlighted, but there's a spotlight in Drogheda at the moment. And I feel like maybe we have done a lot of that work for us. If we had been starting that project now, it would be so far more diluted, with Spotlight in Town. I think even, the Carl report looking at the impact on children within the area, just kind of going back to what you said, Alan, like the counselling lists, soared in Connect, and it was down to the anxiety felt by children, petrol bombs. We're looking at now kind of, trauma-informed community, because this community has suffered a trauma. It is that genuine, like it's an absolute trauma, and it is long-lasting. And I think, what would have happened years ago in the 70s and 80s, and the perception that Moneymore had within the wider community, and I think they had kind of come past that, and they've suddenly been thrown right back in there. People kind of saying, changing their address on their CVs, because they're not getting job interviews, because they're from Moneymore, and, just... It's sad to see it go back to that place, and I suppose it's about not accepting that and looking at doing something differently and knowing to highlight what we know is within an amazing community and giving them space to grow, address the needs. And it'll be a much wider area, even though it's based within the community. Like, this is a growing space, be it Lawrence's Park, Lea Brega, it's the community itself, or the town, Moneymore Townland, is growing, so it's a bit future-proofing for the area as well.
And I think that's it. I think all the agencies are bursting at the seams as it is, and the community is building, and the needs of the communities are amplifying over and over. And like, some people might turn around and say, well, you have 3 buildings there, what's the problem? But when we break things down, if you have counselling on a Tuesday and Johnny or Jimmy or Jane is going over, they don't want people looking at the window going, oh, they must be heading over for counselling. I wonder what's wrong with them. Or if they're going to the cable guarded diversion project, oh, their kid must be in trouble. Or going to the after school club, oh, they must be struggling a bit with the early education. So by bringing them all together into one space, it gives them that space of anonymity, but at the same time, they could be accessing all or any of the supports. And why is that important, do you think, for the people in the area?
It's a small community, and absolutely everyone knows everyone, which is can be a very good thing, can be a bad thing. We've had, I suppose, in the past, support services for people who've been affected by addiction within their family, and it's literally kind of gone back to, we've like a back lane that is very much a back lane. There is issues there, be it rubbish, antisocial behaviour, but they'll still choose to come in that way, just not to come in through the front door, because that sense of, do they know why I'm going in there? Who is it within my family? And just, having that sense of privacy and space to be able to access supports and services, in a private space. I think as well, and why maybe the organisations came together, is we quite naturally support each other's type of services. So say if a young person or a mum was going to collect in the after school club, there is also the parenting support, that they can instantly see that information, which they may not come in to connect for, but by linking in with the other services, their scope of supports is more naturally and widely available to them, or even seeing the information of what supports are there. And same, with Food Cloud coming to collect, food parcels on a weekly basis. We talk about, there's hidden poverty within communities. Just because you have a job, just because you have a car, that doesn't mean that you're not off to your eyes in debt, that there's not intimidation or drug debt. There's so many different reasons, so you can't make assumptions on people by looking at them or their situation. We don't know. That goes for across the board, not just for Moneymore. So it's about, being really respectful of people's situations, providing, support, in an appropriate space. That's not a big ask. That should be presumed, but we don't currently have that.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest challenges is, across the country has been the allowing of estates to be built, estates to be built, estates to be built, estates to be built, with no community hubs or no centres that were meant to be built, but they weren't built, and the builders disappeared, and that was fine. There was no problem. And then as the young people start to grow and the area starts to mature, then issues start to show themselves. And, we've probably both experienced those young people who have applied for jobs, and got nothing purely because of the address that they're from. And then what they're left with, well, I may not have an education and I can't get the job. And here's my friend over here saying, well, I can give you $2,000 a week if you just bring this here to there. And when there's a sense of that being normal within a community, they don't want to be left out. Now, the majority of the young people that we've worked with have said, no, I'm not going down that route. But others who maybe if they had that more wraparound support within a designated space, may not have gone that direction. So, go on.
No, and I know we've talked about it before, I suppose from someone outside the community, I don't know if people realise how easy it is for young people to get drawn into it, and sometimes not having a choice, making one wrong mistake and then not being able to step back from it, that they're suddenly embroiled in something that's out of their control. So it's not always necessarily, or a choice, they're going this route or that route. It can just spiral so easily.
Yeah, I remember a young lad saying to me, Alan, how can I cycle past somebody that I know who has killed somebody and say no to them? And this is the reality for a lot of the young people, the challenges that they face. So it's so difficult for people who maybe haven't grown up in that environment or experienced that environment to know the pressure that's there. So if we look at, if this Face Painted Kids project is successful and we sell out and we have a chunk of money to hand over to the Moneymore Community Centre, what will that go towards?
I suppose it depends what stage it comes in at. So I say, there's all those kind of small issues getting started, as in solicitors' fees, setting up as a legal company, looking at, so we've had to campaign to get funding for the business plan, the feasibility study. When we get to, so at the minute we have an architect on board to bring us to pre-planning stage, but then there's getting planning permission. Where's the funding coming in for that? So, it's step by step, and kind of, we know what needs to be done, but every step of the way, we're like, how do we fund it? How do we get to this little part? And then sometimes, not always, but it's easier to get funding nearly for those bigger pieces of work. And this is the document you'll have at the end. But there's all these little costs along the way to get us to that point. And it's trying to find, that we have, that pot of funding to work from, that we can continue to expand and not having to keep stop starting, be reliant on an organisation. What is the end product? That we can progress this as needed, as we have done. But now that it's getting kind of closer to that building stage, we're confident that it will. Yeah, those fees, as in the solicitors, the planning, and everything that goes with it.
Yeah, and like you say, those are the expenses that nobody thinks about. So the consortium would probably get the money to build the building, but they may not get money to kit out the building. They may not get the money, like you said, to pay for solicitors. And what's happened, as far as my understanding, is that all the organisations have been pooling their already stretched budgets as it is for those little small ones, because you're not going to get funding for 600, 700 euro. And while somebody might be listening to this and going, well, 600, 700 euros, so that's nothing. But all the organisations are so stretched that that is massive money. So having that pot will hopefully help to just keep moving things along, so that we're not having to look for a funding source for €700, a funding source for €1,500, because all of those take time. They're delays and they push things along. And from my understanding, the consortium needs to be ready to go when someone higher up than any of us says, right, there's money for the building, off you go.
Yeah. I say we're continuously doing all this background work, and say working on constitution, all these different things, but exactly what you said, it's about keeping that momentum going. And suddenly if you get this opportunity to present, we're like, here, we've put everything in place, that you're not going back and then losing time or getting that meeting, that you constantly have to be ahead of the game and having everything in place that you can respond the minute you're given the opportunity.
Yeah, and that's so important. And the other thing to remember is that none of this is going towards staff wages. So all the organisations have committed their staff to this. So they're not getting any money back for staff. This is just for the practical stuff. And while you may get a solicitor who will say, well, I'll do it pro bono, but they're going to fit it in somewhere in between all their paying clients, and it may not get the same level of attention that it actually needs. So having the ability to go to somebody and say, no, we're paying for it, so we're going to meet here, and they'll go, yes, that's fine, and we meet, and it gets to the point where you guys are ready to just go when the big cloud of money drops.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can't underestimate all those little moves, like. Yeah. And the time that all the organisations have put in, we've committed that, and it's about removing any barriers and keeping the momentum going to get to where we want it, and we will get to. Yeah.
Brilliant. I love that sense of confidence that it's going to happen.
Absolutely.
If you didn't have that confidence, you'd be lost. Cliodhna, is there anything else that we have not touched on that you think people should hear about?
No, I suppose that, it's hard sometimes you have these conversations that you don't know people, you don't never want to overestimate people's knowledge of the area or what we're trying to achieve. And we're hopeful the more progresses that we will have, be it social media and Facebook pages, and we will have residents meetings. And I think everyone's very open to, if you do have questions or if you want more information, contact one of the organisations. We're more than happy to talk about what we're trying to achieve. And we're all very well informed about what we're trying to achieve. So I think everyone will be open to anyone reaching out and looking for more information from us.
Brilliant stuff. Well, I'll add all your contact details for Connect, that people, you'll be inundated. Hopefully, you'll be working full time just answering those. Cliodhna, thank you so much for taking the time to chat about the Moneymore Community Centre, and best of luck.
Thank you, Alan. Best of luck. Thanks a million.